And I think we also make an excuse for stopping to do the tough, shitty things
Yeah.
because we want to say that it's not attached to our why. When the truth is, we haven't gone all in. We haven't hedged all the bets on ourselves. The truth is that we aren't 100% committed to our to our passion. And so we want to make an excuse for why we shouldn't be doing it. See, if we were to fast forward and go now, okay, John, give us a story. You're now in America. The reason I got into 15 years of the corporate ladder was because I was a writer and I loved writing. Man, you want to lose me in a time? Put me writing, but not nonfiction. Put me writing Harry Potter's. Put me writing Lord of the Rings. Put me writing that sort of stuff, right? I will get lost, right?
Yeah.
Even when I'm talking
Creative
about
stuff.
it. Exactly.
That's your creative brain.
That's exactly correct. And I'll get lost. But I would start chapters. I would start books, 3, 4 chapters, 5 chapters in, and then would stop when I hit a first writer's block, which every writer will tell you that's a common thing. I would stop and I would go, oh man, I can't do this because this isn't going to afford me money. And I've got to have this big group. And how am I going to go ahead and publish it? And how am I going to edit it? And well, maybe I don't have a big enough why. So you know what? Let's go after the new title at my job. Or let's try to be a VP of sales, or let's try to be a regional operations manager. And I was good at that stuff. So that's the stuff that I would chase because it was easy to come to me when you're pursuing, and going back to the same point we just said, when you're pursuing your purpose, it's not going to be easy. And you have to pull on. I understand that sometimes I'm going to have to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to have to put in the hard work, and I'm just going to have to get down to the nitty gritty, disgusting crap. And I'm going to have to do that. Yeah. My book that I wrote 10 years later, I physically wrote it. So I took a pen and a piece of paper and I wrote it in a notebook, right? I learned consistency, which meant I got fed up when my grandfather, who was the one that told me about becoming a doctor, when he finally passed away, and we finally published my grandmother's books, I came to a realization. I said, are you going to continue to say, I'm going to get this dream eventually, someday, maybe when everything is lined in stone and the stars are
everything
all aligned
aligns
and blah,
perfectly.
blah, blah. Yeah, exactly. Or are we just going to do it right now? And so I made the decision, you know what? I'm going to write every single day for 20 minutes. I got through halfway through my physical book that I'm writing. I got through halfway through it. And on my birthday, the car gets broken into. My bag with only my pen and my first edition gets stolen. And it's gone.
No way.
And I searched for hours for hoping and praying that they had dumped out the contents, because that's all I wanted. I didn't want the bag. I didn't care.
Yeah, who cares
just
about
give me my
money
book
or
back.
anything.
Yeah. And I remember sitting in the coffee shop a couple days later. And I remember going, if I was supposed to write this book, if this was supposed to be in people's hands, why the heck is it this hard to do? I don't want to do this. This is horrible. This is the worst thing ever. Like, this isn't fair. It was on my birthday. And I said, no, you made a commitment to yourself, not to anybody else. Who cares about anybody else? You made a commitment to yourself that you were going to do this until it was done. It's time to show up. We wouldn't even be talking had my book not been finished, because it was my book that catapulted me to have conversations with other dream catchers and find them, surround with them, listen to them, learn from them. Like, my show would never have gotten started had my book not been finished.
Which is a great point, because this happens. I mean, it's happened to me, every time, and it's always a bit cliche, but often the biggest failures are some of the most important parts of your life, because they trigger something to happen, or they trigger you to start changing something. And that's, first of all, that's a fantastic story. Like, you can see you've been in sales, you're very good at telling the stories, like the pauses and everything. And
Well, but also the fact that I'm a writer, so I know how
Yes,
to add
I mean,
color into it and everything.
I mean,
the combination, you can see, I was just like, I forgot I was interviewing to you for a second. I was like, oh my God. So, I mean, yeah, that was fantastic for starters. But going into this, you know, you're spot on the money there, where it's like, oh, I just want to wait until the stars align, and obviously that's a hyperbole, but people are always waiting for like, oh, I'll wait until next month when my paycheck comes through. I'll wait until this. I'll wait until you know my parents can do this. I'll wait until I'm 18. I'll wait until I've moved out of home, or I'll wait until whatever it is, right? And that almost never comes, because they just keep waiting. They just keep waiting. They just keep waiting. They just keep waiting.
Listen to me tell you this, okay? 17 is when I started medical school, and 34 is when I published my book.
and you
10
wanted to
years,
publish a book from 17.
No, I wanted to publish a book since 96, man, when I was a kid.
So,
but kids don't publish books.
of course.
Who's going to read a kid's book? Who's going to read a kid author? Limiting belief right there.
Exactly.
Right? And so what happened is the reason I got into the corporate world was because I kept, okay, when I've got this title, okay, when I've got this car, okay, when I've got this in my bank account, when I've got this size house, when I've got this and this and this and this and this, I kept setting myself up for that someday. Someday never comes. It's time to start today. There is no someday on the calendar. It's time to start today. Like, if you're going to go after your dreams, you have to understand it's not going to be perfect. If I'm flying from Seattle down to Sydney, it doesn't matter whether I swim, whether I fly, whether I jump on a boat, whether I teleport. It's the same length of journey. And I have to start it. It doesn't matter if I start it today or if I start it, you know, at the end of 2020. I've still got to start it and then do the exact same journey. So if the journey is the same and the time is irrelevant, because doesn't matter if I'm going to go to Sydney, then I have to cover those miles or those kilometers. Then stop pushing it off to a time that's never going to happen. The truth is, the real truth is, if you're procrastinating, if you're waiting for the perfect moment, the truth is you haven't tapped into your real reason for why you're doing it. And truthfully, it may or may not be your passion. That's where you discover whether or not, you know, you've got a big enough why. And then at some point you just have to say, I'm going to start, I'm going to jump, I'm going to see if I can build a parachute on the way down. I wrote my book with a pen and a piece of paper because that's all I had at the time. I started the Dreamcatcher show with my iPhone, a tripod, and AirPods, because I wanted to make it a habit that we start with imperfection and then we learn along the way. We grow along the way. We don't wait for perfection to happen, because it never happens. So we just jump and we figure out if we can fly.